Sorry, we will start again. Yeah. So we were talking.
I was saying, if any one thing, a lot of Muslims here actually are making a mistake. In Islam, you're not supposed to crusade and actually impose Islam on anyone.
This is junk. This is junk. Where do you get your idea from?
Tell me what.
Where do you get your idea from?
Can I ask you? Tell me where it says in the Quran that you should go and impose Islam and run crusades to get people to come to Islam.
So how did Islam?
No, I said tell me the Quran. That's the reference.
I'm answering.
Let's be Quranist, okay?
I'm answering. I'm answering. Now, I want to do two things. I want to look at history first.
Not history.
So you don't care about. I'm talking about.
History is from human beings.
Okay.
But,
Can I please?
Can I finish? The reference for religion. If I want to discuss Christianity with you, I'd use the Bible as a reference. If I want to discuss Islam with you, I'd use, guess what, the Quran as a reference. That is why I'm asking you.
Sure.
Tell me in the Quran. In fact, in the Quran, it says that before you become a Muslim, you should seek knowledge first.
Doesn't matter. You're talking about Mickey Mouse ideas. Doesn't matter. My point very simply is, your question very simply is, your point earlier was absolute junk. I couldn't believe that your point was that Islam was never commanded to leave and come here.
No, I did not say that.
Please repeat your point.
I did not say that.
So please repeat.
I said that when your assumption is that when you create a caliphate, it's something that is imposed externally. But a caliphate can actually be something that starts from the grassroots if enough of the population...
I'm not talking...
Can I finish? If enough of the population, just like a democracy, if enough of the population convert to Islam, then they could create a caliphate. They could actually declare that, now we want to be a caliphate. So let's not confuse politics with religion here.
So if I read to you right now, that a caliphate is a worldwide caliphate is supposed to be established by physical force all over the world, what would you do? Would you leave Islam? Do you follow Islam right now?
It doesn't matter whether Muslim or not.
No, it does matter. I'd like to understand. What is your...
If you are making a point out of intellect, not emotion, it should not matter whether I'm Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or even atheist. It should not matter.
I'd like to understand your motivation, but that's fine. Let's read. Surah, which includes not being able to hide anything. I am standing here as a Christian. If you can't even tell you what your religious affiliation is,
Intelligent discussion doesn't need to.
Doesn't need it? You think so? But that's fine. Excuse me. I don't want to argue. I don't want to argue. I really don't want to argue against your. Excuse me, sir. No. I've told you multiple times. Not interested, sir. Surah. I'm going to read to you right now. A couple of verses, which hopefully you would take seriously. Surah 8, little one, sorry. Apologies, I should, in front of your girl, I should be careful, sorry. I should treat you kindly, really, because I'm in a robust conversation, but in front of it. Okay, that's fine. I have a younger one. Than that, but cool. Surah 8, ayahs 38 and 39.
Yeah.
Tell those, Surah 8, ayahs 38 and 39. Tell those who disbelieve that if they cease, that which is past will be forgiven them. But if they return, then the example of the men of old has already gone. 38, Surah 8, ayah 38. Now ayah 39. Hello, good to see you. And fight them. Ayat. And fight them until persecution is no more and religion is all for Allah.
Repeat again.
Fight them until persecution is no more and religion is all for Allah. Exactly. So let's focus on all the details there. Fight them.
Yes.
Fighting physical violence. Until persecution is no more and religion is all for Allah.
Exactly.
So I know you'd like to focus on the persecution. I'll come to that in a little bit.
Okay,
but fight them until, if I were to skip the persecution part alone, I'll return to that in a minute.
Okay.
Fight them until religion is all for Allah.
Yeah.
So very simply, Muslims have been commanded to fight.
No. You are misreading. Read it again properly. You are making it's selective understanding. It says, and fight them until persecution is no more. Do you know what? And religion is all for Allah.
Yeah.
So do you know the context of this?
Excuse me, I know the context. I've read. Don't worry. Please, let's read. Let's read now. Please, let's read the verse first, and then if you want to expand on the context, you're most welcome to do. But let's do that later. But you can try your luck. You can try your luck, sir.
No, read it.
Good luck to you. I'll give you all the time you need. You can try your luck later. But now, coming to you, sir. Fight them until persecution is no more and religion is all for Allah. I'll come to the persecution part in a minute. But until religion is all for Allah. In other words, Muslims have been given a mandate to fight until religion is all for Allah. So
no, you are misreading that.
So how would you like to read this?
They were being persecuted. If you remember, Muslims were being persecuted.
Who were? Sorry, if you remember from where?
No, in the times. If you actually look at the whole history of Islam, when you had the revelations with angel Gabriel or Jibril, there were a lot of people who were fighting Islam and who were persecuting Muslims, who did not want Islam to be a popular religion for people to make their own free choices whether they follow Islam or not. And therefore, the Muslims were persecuted for their faith.
So let me ask you this. Give me one evidence for claiming that Muslims, one historically valid evidence to claim that Muslims were persecuted by non-Muslims at the time of the Quran.
When you say historical, do you mean by the Quran? Do you know?
You can show the Quran if you want. Show me one. Show me from the Quran. Show me from the Quran.
No. Let me ask you a question. Are you telling me that when the Muhammad had to move from place to place with the Qurayshis persecuting him, that was not about Islam? It was just about him actually traveling and trying to spread Islam.
So here is where I know you have been told a lot of stories. Muhammad, please listen, please.
No, but you don't know. You can't say you know when you don't know.
I haven't spoken. Please listen.
You said I know you've been told a lot of stories.
Please listen. Please listen.
Yeah.
You've given me a part of the story already.
No, but I'm saying that
please listen. Please listen.
Assume.
Please listen.
You said I have been told.
Please
I know
listen.
you've been told.
Please listen. Please listen. Okay. Maybe I'll rephrase. I know that there is plenty of Mickey Mouse ideas, fantasy ideas, fictional ideas of who Muhammad is, what happened to him, what happened to early Muslims, how Islam spread at the start, all those sorts of stuff. I know there are plenty of fictional ideas. I'm not into fictional ideas, and I'm not into fictional ideas. I want history, and that is where my question to you is: what is the evidence? Clearly, you're going to claim that Muslims were persecuted, and my question is: what is the evidence that at the origin of Islam, Muslims were persecuted? What's the evidence?
Are you talking about historical evidence?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to tell you is that whether you look at Christianity or Islam.
No, so focus on.
Can I finish?
Focus on the persecution of Muslims.
Can I finish? Whether you're talking about Christianity or Islam, there is no historical evidence.
Excuse me, don't bring in Christianity.
Can I finish?
But don't bring in Christianity. Why do you want to bring in?
Can I speak?
Okay, go on.
You see, that's the problem
Go
with
on,
emotions. That's the problem with emotions.
Go on.
If you look at Christianity and Islam, the Bible and the Quran, there is no evidence that can actually indisputably say that both texts are historically and factually accurate. It's about belief. You get to a stage where it's about faith, that you believe. You cannot say that I've got scientific evidence that can trail everything that is specified regarding the history of Jesus Christ or the history of Muhammad. So when you start talking about historical evidence, then we include Kukulen, because if my grandmother had a beard, she would be my grandfather. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about here. It's not really practical.
I completely understand that if you're only familiar with Islam in detail, you would completely come to the conclusion that Islam as a religion does not have evidence. I completely understand. I haven't finished. And so I completely understand. That is your view, possibly. that without evidence,
Don't assume.
I haven't finished. I haven't
No,
finished.
but you're saying, if you say
I haven't
that's your
finished.
view,
I haven't finished.
don't assume.
I haven't finished. I haven't finished. I heard your point earlier. Now you need to. This is the problem with emotions. You need to now. You need to do the same because you were trying to point out to that earlier. The point very simply is. I completely understand. With Islam, there is no evidence. I completely understand. You will come up with all sorts of cock and bull stories. This is what happened to Muhammad. That happened to Muhammad. People are upset with all sorts of cock and bull stories. I completely understand. But don't even dare to mention that point with Christianity. For Jesus Christ, for the origin of Christianity, for the fundamental building blocks of Christianity, I can give rock solid historical commentary, not just from Christians from the first century, but also from non-Christians from the first century. Non-Christian Romans, non-Christian Greeks, non-Christian Jewish sources for the fundamental building blocks of Christianity from the first century, not just Christian. My point is, if I challenge you to use any resource, including the Quran, you can use the Quran if you wanted to, but if you try to build a case that Muslims were persecuted, you will fail miserably. That is my point. You know what Quran calls as persecution? Do you know what it calls as persecution?
Basically, it's not being allowed to follow their faith.
Exactly. So this is not essentially, not just that. Not just that. Yeah, Quran explicitly goes on to say, even if I come and reason with you, it's oppression already. That's what the Quran claims.
Because in Islam, that is not allowed.
Exactly. In other words, you know what the early Muslims, according to the Quran, according to examples, according to evidence, you know what Muslims began calling as oppression and persecution? Very simply that people didn't choose to follow Islam and they came up with coherent, meaningful arguments. They didn't even like that. And that they consider as persecution. As a matter of fact, if you were to go through this entire Quran, and this is why I'm going to come back, I completely understand. In Islam, even reasoning is persecution. Reasoning against religion is persecution. Can you assert that Muslims were proactively, physically, violently hurt by any non-Muslim through any historical resource?
You made a mistake. First, I need to correct something. You said that there is historical factual evidence of Jesus Christ. That is not true. And also when you talk about the Bible, in fact, I'll advise you to actually read the books in the Bible, the research on the books in the Bible, whether they're complete, and you compare them with what happened in the books that you find in Lalabella, you find in the churches in Ethiopia today. Because the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has got a history that goes all the way. Even the images of Jesus Christ that you have, that are in Ethiopia, they've been kept. There are people who actually are custodians of that. What was revealed in Russia matched that, not the Bible that you read. If I ask even the Bible that are being used today, I'm not going to say that the Quran is authentic or anything either. I'm going to say, that's why I say that there's a lot of faith in both Islam and Christianity.
No, this is junk. Please play.
Let me finish.
No. You didn't give any meat.
You are emoting now. You are emoting. Listen as well. Don't become emotional.
No, I'm asking you. We were talking about something particular, and you've gone all the way somewhere else.
Don't become emotional. Let me finish.
Can we focus on Surah 839?
Don't become emotional. Let me finish.
Surah 839.
Don't become emotional. Let me finish. Both Christianity and Islam.
Surah 839. Persecution. Do you have evidence or not?
Can I finish?
No, but you need to give evidence for persecution.
Can I finish?
Do you have evidence that Muslims were persecuted by non-Muslims?
Can I finish?
But can you please give me a quick answer and then expand?
No.
Do you have any evidence for Muslims being persecuted by non-Muslims at the origin of Islam?
Can I finish?
You can, but give me a quick answer so I know you're going to get there.
No, but you cannot tell me how to answer when you actually are free to answer the way you want to.
So, but then let's focus on the persecution part. The persecution is where we began. I don't want to go wander away all over the place. Persecution, you claim Muslims were persecuted because I'm focused on the very important aspect that Muslims have been commanded to fight until. Yes, please.
You know, I was talking about the Qurayshi. I find exactly what they did so that you get the actual actions.
I need the evidence.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when you actually read all the faiths, they talk as if they're historical factual books. So you can only find the evidence within the scriptures of that religion.
Absolutely. Please find out any historically tenable resource. Any resource that you want to establish as historically tenable, I'm happy with.
Okay, if you look at this, I was talking, this is about the Qurayshi. As the influence of Islam spread among the clans, the Meccans became hostile to Muhammad's message. Islam represented a challenge to the, it was the polytheistic religions actually, not here monopoly of religion. It was become, because Muhammad came with the concept of a unique God.
But that's just a claim. I'm asking for evidence.
How would you find evidence?
You tell me.
What I'm saying is that both the Bible.
Don't go to the Bible. Please focus on this.
Well, you cannot take it out of context.
Excuse me. No. The context for Islam is not the Bible. So I'm asking you very simply. You are giving me a story. I like the story. It's quite fancy. I'm trying to find out what the evidence is. And this is just. Do you have evidence or not? Please. Do you have evidence for persecution of Muslims?
Who else would actually provide evidence of that period other than the people that?
Well, not Wikipedia. What is that? I don't know what it is. No, historical resources, some sort of. For example, you can use the Quran if you wanted. Please use the Quran if you wanted.
I will not actually be able to find the ayah.
It's not in the Quran. Okay, that's fine.
I can. Okay.
Evidence. When you put together the details of the Quran, please explain to me how we can come to the conclusion that Muslims were proactively persecuted by non-Muslims, physically violence by non-Muslims.
No, persecution, it doesn't have to resort to physical violence.
Some level of persecution, whatever you call as persecution, please tell.
This is in the this would be in the hadith, not in the Quran. I would have to find.
I can give you some insight if you like. I've gone through the Quran multiple times. I can give you some insight if you like.
Why?
Ask a friend.
I cannot find it right now, but I can find somebody.
No problem. I can tell you. I can tell you very. So I've gone through the Quran multiple times, and I prepared extensive notes, and I'm even writing a book on how Islam began according to the Quran. Plenty of historical details actually hidden here. And what I can tell you very honestly is that clearly Muslims who have contributed to the text here clearly claims that Muslims were persecuted, clearly oppressed, persecuted. But if you actually carefully get to the details of what was happening, very simply, it was people trying to reason them out of Islam that they considered to be persecution and oppression.
There was also actually the ostracization and in the community. Those are also actually.
Please.
By the way, can I
Let me finish my previous point. Yeah. My point very simply is, I know you'd like to assert a few more things. My point is, please don't assert anything unless you can provide evidence. Evidence is king. Otherwise, you have been quite good so far. You have been trying to be reasonable so far, but that is where I want to take it to the logical conclusion. Without evidence, an idea is a fiction. And my point simply is, you can go through the entire Quran. Muslims weren't persecuted. The Quran does say that Muslims were oppressed and persecuted. And that is only, when you go through the details, only because people were trying to reason them out. And the Muslims didn't like it. Beyond this, there was nothing which we would normally call persecution.
Can I ask you a question?
I'll just finish this. I'll just finish this. I'll just finish this. Absolutely. I'll just finish this and then you can, just 10 seconds. And so my point is very simply, when it says fight them until persecution is no more, they are purely saying fight them until no one tries to reason you out of Islam. And religion is all for Allah. That is all that it means.
Can I ask you a question?
And so my point would be fight them.
Now it's becoming a preaching session.
Please go.
What is your understanding of the relationship between the Quran and the Hadiths?
The Hadiths is just fantasy fictional ideas from a very late.
In terms of Islamic belief, what is your understanding of what
Islamic belief doesn't matter.
How you say it doesn't matter?
You're asking me what is my okay? So if you question,
what is your understanding? In a Muslim context, Islamic context, what is the relationship between the hadiths and the Quran?
So, let me answer, but I'm going to give two answers. Yeah, please. I need to provide clarity here. I genuinely understand that different kinds of Muslims, unless they are Quran only Muslims, different kinds of Muslims think that hadiths in their various forms, various books, Sunni, Shia, canonical, non-canonical, they think that a portion of that, believe that a portion of that is historical. They represent what really happened centuries before, even though the literature were written down centuries later. That's what they believe. I completely understand. But in my careful analysis, it doesn't. The claims, the beliefs are merely fantasy beliefs. They don't have credibility for various different reasons. One of them is, very importantly, even the Quran denies. Quran denies plenty of the claims of the hadiths. All the building blocks of Islam, the Quran denies. Muhammad, Quraysh, and Arab, pagan Meccan Arabs, all sorts of stuff. The Quran actually denies when you go through the details. And that is one of the points is what I was trying to use as an example. The Quran does record oppression of Muslims, persecution of Muslims in multiple places. It does record. It does record. Every single time, if you go and read through it carefully, you would either find that essentially Muslims proactively attacked others and others were responding, either that or non-Muslims were simply trying to reason Muslims out of Islam. This is what is called in the multiple places in the Quran. And so the Quran itself stands against this idea that non-Muslims proactively attack the Muslims. So I consider hadiths to be complete myths, fictional stories.
So in your understanding, Muslims should only believe in the Quran, they do not believe in the hadiths? Or are you saying that Muslims believe in both the Quran and the hadiths in some shape or form?
I genuinely think Muslims should cease being Muslims because Islam is not fit for purpose.
I'm not talking about whether they should. I'm talking about your understanding of Muslims and the Islamic religion. Do you understand it that Muslims should only believe in the Quran, the hadiths are totally out of question? Or do you believe that Muslims have to believe both the Quran and the hadiths?
Well, let me put it this way. Muslims can choose to believe in Harry Potter story. Who cares? I'm talking
about your understanding.
I thought we were talking about,
No.
Remember at the start you said intellectual conversation.
Yeah, but the thing is that
I'm talking about intellectual conversation.
You're being facetious now. What I was asking is that you, for instance, if you ask me, what are the foundations of the Christian belief? I'll tell you that the foundations of the Christian belief are embodied in the Bible.
That's not the point. The point is...
Can I finish?
But you need to get back to an intellectual conversation.
The problem that I have here with engaging people that are fanatical is that it's very difficult to reason.
You know what fanatical behavior is? When something has been established as a myth, to still hold on to that fanatical behavior. So I'm simply suggesting the later day...
No, but the way you are responding, I'm sorry to say, is you're emoting. I asked you a simple question. Wait, see exactly that.
Persecution, you couldn't show evidence. You couldn't show evidence for persecution. What are you planning to do about this?
It's difficult to engage. If you cannot listen.
I listen to you all the time.
How can you listen and talk at the same time?
Look, I'm asking you, without evidence, would you like to believe in something?
How can you listen and talk at the same time?
I listen to you one more time,
you don't.
and then I'll come back to my previous point.
You do not.
Please, go on.
What are the foundations of the Christian belief? It's the Bible. Do you agree with me that the Bible is the scripture which forms the foundation of the Christian belief?
Okay. Let me.
No. I'll ask you a simple question.
I know you asked a question, but you completely avoided the previous discussion altogether. So I'd like to make sure we are doing justice to the conversation we were trying to have. Please listen to me carefully. Would you like to have an intellectual conversation, or would you like to have a religiously indoctrinated conversation? What would you like to have?
No,
you tell me, please.
You're the one who's going off course.
Would you like a religious conversation or an intellectual conversation?
I would like an intelligent discussion.
Intelligent discussion is where We appreciate when there is no evidence for something.
Talk and listen at the same time.
I know, and this is why you need to listen right now. And this is why you need to listen right now. My point very simply is.
No, you are doing it again.
Yeah, my point. Yeah,
No, listen first.
You need to.
listen
I
first.
listened to you earlier. I listened to you earlier. Now, my point. Now, my point very. Okay.
Listen
Would you
first.
like to have an
No, listen
intelligent
first.
conversation?
Listen first. Listen first. You see, the volume of your words does not imbue power and veracity in the words.
Now, can we get back to the conversation at hand? Instead of, excuse me, instead of the, can we get back to the conversation at hand?
No.
Evidence for persecution, none. What are you planning to do?
No. First, we have to have an intelligent discussion, which means that you have to hear me and I've got to hear you.
And you need to stick to the topic. You need to stick to the topic.
No.
You need to stick to the topic.
No. I asked you a simple question. I said, your understanding of Islamic faith, are the scriptures that form the foundation of the Islamic faith the Quran and the Hadith, or none of the two, or one of the two? I asked you that simple question.
Very good. Let me answer you in the broader context of us trying to have an intelligent conversation. If you would like to be intelligent, which is what I'd like for you to be, I would like to comment to you that you follow whatever religion, but only based on evidence, not based on later day myths. And so you tell me, if there is no evidence for persecution of Muslims, the Muslims are the origin of Islam, by non-Muslims, if you want to be intelligent, not just in our conversation right now, but also generally in life, would you ever want to go around thinking that Muslims were persecuted when there is no evidence whatsoever?
Can you answer my question now?
I know, you're now struggling right now. Please, you need to
No,
focus.
answer my question.
Emotions, we need to keep aside. Emotions, we need to keep aside.
Answer my question.
Please,
and then
now,
answer the
now,
question.
you need
my
emotions,
question,
you need to keep emotions away.
I said, answer my question and then answer the question.
Now you're being a little bit like a child, please. You need to focus like an adult. We have moved on. We started where we were reading 839. You claimed there was a persecution. I asked you if there is evidence. When you struggle to provide evidence, you're now talking about...
I'm leading to
No, we are not leading to anything. We want to get back to the conversation at hand. If
Can you
you...
answer my question first?
Let me ask you this.
It's a simple
I'll
question.
give you one last
Yes or no?
chance. I'll give you one last chance
No.
and then I'll move away. Do you have any evidence? Do you have any evidence that early Muslims were persecuted by non-Muslims? Any evidence whatsoever?
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that you want to come as this as engaging in an academic world with research.
Do you have any evidence whatsoever?
You see, that's exactly what I'm saying. The thing is that if you do not know the premise of Islam, but you want to...
Doesn't matter. Look,
No, you can't discuss Islam if you don't actually know the basics.
Okay, I'll remind you something.
You can't.
One second.
You can't.
1 second. Please listen to me 1 second. Did you earlier remember that there was a great gentleman who was standing here who made a marvelous statement saying, to examine the veracity of this religion, I don't even have to know your religion. Do you remember that?
Maybe I wasn't here. I can't remember.
You are the gentleman who told me that you don't even have to tell me what religion you follow while we are trying to discuss facts.
That's not the...
Hey, weren't you that one?
No.
Now you're struggling. Please, let me put it this way.
Can I answer?
Look, please.
Quiet. Let me speak.
No. Let me
speak.
I was trying to make a rhetorical point.
I said this. You asked me what is my religion.
Yeah.
I said to engage in any intelligent discussion or
Exactly.
examine the veracity of a religion. I do not have. You do not have to know
Exactly.
what religion I follow.
Completely. That's
My
fine.
religious faith has nothing to do with the
Sure. Good. Stick to the same argument.
Yes.
Your religious faith or the religious faith of any number of Muslims have...
Anyone.
I'm speaking right now. Please stay quiet. Of any number of Muslims is irrelevant when we are trying to have an intelligent conversation about what really happened. Because for what really happened, I don't care what Mickey Mouse stories you or anyone else believes in. And that is where my point to you is very simply, I'm going to return to what I was talking about earlier. Do you have any evidence whatsoever? I completely understand when going through the Quran, there is plenty of evidence that Muslims, as recorded in the Quran, were shedding crocodile tears. I completely understand. When non-Muslims were trying to reason them out of Islam, they said, oh, we are being persecuted. Oh, so people are oppressing us. I completely understand. That was happening, which is not what we would call persecution. We would call that reasoning. I'm going to ask you, beyond this, do you have any evidence, any credible evidence that early Muslims were persecuted at the time of the origin of Islam at the hands of non-Muslims? Do you have any evidence at all?
The problem is that as much as you want to get answers to your questions as direct answers, you don't seem to have the capacity to be engaged honestly and also respond to questions that are posed to you. I asked you a simple question. I said, according to your understanding of Islam, is a Muslim supposed to believe in both the Quran and the Hadiths, or neither of them, or one of them? And you refuse to answer that question. Because if you answer that question, you'd find the answer to your question. Because the idea that everything about the Islamic faith you find in the Quran is misguided. The idea of the Hadiths is to add and supplement and explain things that may not be clearly understood in the Quran. When you talk about persecution, you would actually find that when they look at persecution, they're actually looking at persecution from not only, the Quran actually says that persecution, but in terms of the definition of persecution and what actually happened, you actually find those things in the supplementary Islamic scriptures, which are the Hadiths. But you do not want to actually accept that because you know where I was going with that. So what I'm telling you is that you may choose to understand persecution in your own way because of your goal, what you want to prove. But if you actually read in the entirety of what the people who actually believe in that faith believe in as reference scriptures, you'd find that it's actually more than your definition of what persecution is.
Sure. In other words, you simply do not have any credible, valid historical artifacts to really suggest that Muslims, no emotions please, let me finish, that Muslims were persecuted by non-Muslims at the point of origin in the way we would understand persecution. You simply haven't got any evidence whatsoever. What you rather believe in are myths and fantasies and Mickey Mouse stories which were written down centuries later, and you're going to tell me that you want to believe in them and that is your only basis. So thank you very much. I completely understand. I completely understand. I haven't finished. I completely understand. Even though you began to want to have an intelligent conversation, clearly you are at a loss right now. No longer you want to have an intelligent conversation. Now you want to have a conversation based on myths and fantasies and your emotional belief statements, which I'm not interested in. So I have to stop the conversation right now and simply say, please, you just need to take where you started, that same mindset all the way, and really need to give up on fantasy ideas. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you very much. I'm not interested in anything other than intelligent conversations. Not interested.
Dismiss what Muslims believe in as their.
But you wanted me to dismiss that.
No, I did not. I said.
You said I don't need to know what your religion. No, I'm done. Thank you. You want me to take your myths? You want me to take your mythical ideas seriously?
So hadiths are mythical and the Quran is mythical. Yeah, hadiths are mythical to you.
Well, you tell me. Do you know when the earliest of the hadiths were written down?
No, I'm saying that.
Do you know when the earliest of the hadiths were written down?
You can't answer a question.
Do you know when the earliest of hadiths were written down? Do you know when the earliest of hadiths? Maybe you don't know.
No, but you can't answer a question.
Do you know when the earliest of hadiths were written down?
You cannot answer a simple question.
Do you know when the earliest of hadiths were written down?
My question is that, do Muslims believe in their hadiths?
I don't care. Do you know when the earliest of hadiths were written down?
Don't discuss Islam.
Sure. Thank you very much. I didn't realize you were interested in a non-intelligent conversation. But good to see you.